Howdy, Legendary Void here, and today we have another deck tech for y'all. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that many battle videos out, as they've actually canceled the league here in San Antonio, so there's not going to be too many battle videos coming out in the near future. So right now we're pretty much just going to be doing deck techs and stuff, and maybe every now and then I'll drift off to something else, but well, since I get to be at home a lot, I have a lot of time to think about decks and stuff. So today we're going to be talking about another one that's actually really fun to play, and it is Captain Astrotrain. Captain Astrotrain's been a really cool card. He's been one of my favorites ever since he was announced for Wave 4, but he has this really fascinating ability in his bot mode, saying that while he has at least 3 upgrades and he battles, he gets +3 attack and +3 defense until the end of the battle, which is absolutely fascinating, because that'll make him a 9-14-4, and 4 base defense is, again, nothing. It's absolutely nothing to scoff at, as well as a base of 9. So building on top of that is just incredible, because he does have to have the 3 upgrades, and usually you'll probably have like either attack drones or extra padding, so he's gonna be doing a lot of damage and not taking too much himself. So he's basically a one-man army if you can get enough upgrades on him. But he's very strong, and I wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys about him today. He's a leader specialist, but the leader we're not trying to do too much with, but we do have a few specialist cards we can try and use with this deck. And then he has a few more abilities in his alt modes that have to do with the amount of upgrades on him as well, although they're definitely not as impressive as his bot mode. And also, there's no point in doing any of the spaceship support cards, because the only one we have is UFO, and there's no point to flipping to another mode and then just back to it, because he has no flip effects. And we don't actually have any train support cards right now, unfortunately. I wish we did, but we're not using any of the keywords other than specialist on Astrotrain specifically. So another specialist we're playing is Flame War. Flame War is a really good defensive card for a lot of blue decks, and the fact that she is a 5 cost makes it really easy to fit in most blue decks. Whenever she's in bot mode, she's 3-10-1 and gives tough 1 to all your characters. Now, this is mostly there just so you can keep her alive, but she also is a decent attacker if you're able to put a certain number of upgrades on her. And we're also trying to abuse the specialist on both of those characters, at least a little bit, with things like Field Communicator. And the other character we're going to be playing is Raider Trigger Happy. He is a 2-12-2 in bot mode. He's also ranged, and he gets Pierce 4. Pierce 4 is really strong, but they balance it out by only giving him 2 attack, so you actually have to raise his attack 2 to fully utilize the Pierce 4. So we have some ways that we can do that, as well as also using him for his alt mode ability. He's a 3-12-2, making him a little bit stronger stat-wise on this side. And whenever you flip to this mode, return a weapon from your scrap pile to your hand. This is the main reason we're actually playing Trigger Happy here, because he allows you to get more weapons to put on the Astrotrain, so you can start building up his upgrades early, as well as also being a ranged character and a plane, so we can abuse some cards, at least in the sideboard, with those keywords. So yeah, here's the character list. We're playing all of these. It's a very strong defensive team, and especially when Captain Astrotrain does have his 4 defense, but they do hit really hard in the late game once you've put a certain amount of upgrades on them. But yeah, that's the characters. Let's go ahead and get into the battle cards. Starting off with the actions, we were playing, of course, 3 copies of Security Checkpoint. Now, it seems a little counterintuitive to actually play this card in this deck when your main upgrade is to build up upgrades on an Astrotrain, because it makes each player reveal their hand and get rid of all upgrades from it. But it's actually not that bad of a card whenever you have played all the upgrades in your hand. However, that doesn't happen too often, so it's mainly just there for the double blue pips. We're also playing 3 copies of Leap into Battle. This gives one of your characters +3 attack until the end of the turn, meaning that if you were to play it on Astrotrain when he does have all 3 upgrades and he's in his bot mode, it'll make him a base 9, which is just insane, not even counting any additional attack he gets from the upgrades he has. So just being able to build up his base attack so easily, it makes certain cards like Leap into Battle extremely strong. And for your times whenever you're going up against heavy blue decks and you're not able to deal a lot of damage to them in the early game, you can play things like The Bigger They Are and Heavy Handed, which both give you +2 attack as well as giving you Pierce 4 to whenever you're attacking characters with a certain number of stars, like heavy-handed. While you're attacking someone with fewer stars than you, you have Pierce 4. Bigger there is the opposite. When you have attacking someone with more stars than you get Pierce 4. We decided to play both of them in 2 copies of each because they're, again, very situational, so it might be good to just run both, considering there are people bigger than Astrotrain as well as there are bigger people than your smaller characters, so that they can actually do some damage in the early game as well as the late whenever it really counts. We're also playing 2 copies of Escape Route. This one says flip one of your characters from bot mode to alt mode. We're mostly playing this only for trigger happy, so that you can flip them a few extra times and get those weapons that you need out. It is a white-green pip card, so you're able to pull it to your hand whenever you flip it on attack or defense. But yeah, the card's mostly there for trigger happy, but you can play it on Flame War if you really need the if you need the bold one for something. But although there aren't that many orange cards, if any, in this deck, so they're just mainly there for trigger happy, of course. And the last action, regular action we're playing, is 3 copies of War of Attrition. I think this card is really good in blue decks, considering that, you know, most of the time they're not going to be able to do a whole bunch of damage in the early game before they set up. So once you're able to build up all 3 of these in your hand, you can play it and your opponent does 3 damage spread across their board however they want, and then you repair 3 from one of your characters. It's a very strong card once you're able to get all 3 in your hand. However, you do want to be building up your attack drones or even extra paddings in the early game, so War of Attrition is more of a late game card in this deck, because of course you're not going to want them in your hands when you could be building up Astrotrain's bot mode ability by stocking up upgrades instead of War of Attritions. So it's mostly in there just for the late game, and healing 3 is definitely nice if you really need to do it. As for secret actions, we're playing 2 different ones. We're playing 2 copies of Sabotage Armaments. When one of your character defends, scrap all the attacker's weapons. It's a very nice card for getting rid of attack drones, sort of like this deck, or even getting rid of Battle Masters as soon as your opponent gets to play them. It's just a good card. That's why we're playing 2, but we're not playing 3 because there's it's a situational card, which doesn't really warrant all 3 being played at once. And the other one we're playing is, of course, 3 copies of Hidden Fortification. It's a blue pip secret action that says when one of your characters defends, that character gets tough 3 until the end of battle. This is a really, really good defensive card for when your opponent's swinging hard with an orange deck or with just a big character in a blue deck. But it gives you tough 3, so of course you're going to be able to defend for a whole lot more than you would have before. But yeah, those are the 2 different kinds of secret actions we're playing. As for weapons, we are playing 2 copies of Scoundrel's Blaster, put on Decepticons only, and while the upgraded character is attacking an Autobot, it has Pierce 2. Since we're playing a full team of Decepticons, it makes sense to at least play a few of these, and it gives +2, plus it's a green pip, so you can automatically grab it off of an attack. You could also get it back off of Trigger Happy if you really wanted to. But the +2 attack and Pierce 2 against an Autobot is very strong, considering a lot of the good decks in the format right now are, of course, Autobots. So being able to do Pierce 2 on one of your smaller guys, as well as automatically bringing up Trigger Happy to his Pierce 4, is just makes it a good card to play in general. And of course, to start building out Astrotrain's ability, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Attack Drone. It's a white-green pip card that gives +1 attack for each one attached to it, and you can have all 3 attached to Astrotrain at once, meaning that his ability would trigger immediately, which is very strong. However, you do want to probably try and build up more than just the regular 3 attack drones, because then that means if they remove all of the attack drones, then Astrotrain goes back down to being just a 1 defense character, which kind of stinks, honestly. But of course, Attack Drone does give him +3 attack if you have all 3, making him a base 12 on top of any other battle cards that you're playing to boost his attack. So, of course, Attack Drone seems a bit obvious to be playing in a deck like this. Another one we're playing is 3 copies of Energon Axe. Put on damage characters only, and it gives Pierce 2 and +3 attack. Now, the reason we're playing all 3 of these is because the character is going to be damaged in the early game. That's just going to happen out of necessity of the way the game works. But because they're going to be damaged, being able to give them +3 and Pierce 2 so that they can guarantee damage with your smaller guys is very nice, especially being able to bring it back to your hand with Trigger Happy in the early game, as well as also bringing up Trigger Happy's Pierce to Pierce 5 in his bot mode. It's just a very nice card in general for most blue decks, because you're going to be able to guarantee damage where you might not otherwise. And the other weapon we're playing is 3 copies of Handheld Blaster. Again, mostly out of the necessity for the double blues. Of course, the bold one's not very strong. There are no orange pips in this deck, so of course it's literally just going to be there for the double blue pips, and for you to drop it out of your hand and pick up a green pip, such as Attack Drone, whenever you're flipping for battle. For armors, we are playing 1 copy of Reinforced Plating and 3 copies of Extra Padding. The 3 extra padding are of course for Astrotrain, being able to have all 3 on him, giving him tough 3 on top of the +1 for Flamor, giving him tough 4 all in all, is extremely strong. Plus it just gives you another option for building up upgrades onto Astrotrain. If you have all attack drones, all the extra paddings, plus say a shoulder holster and another weapon, you have a total of 8 upgrades on Astrotrain, and that's just extremely strong, being able to build that up super easily. Extra padding is a very nice card for just being able to stack it. And of course we had the 1 reinforced plating to put on one of the small guys for whenever you need to. I decided to only play 1 because I couldn't really find space for the other one, to be perfectly honest. But it is nice just being able to get tough 2 instead of having to rely on building up your extra paddings to equal more than that. For utilities, we are playing 1 copy of Pocket Processor. At the start of your turn, draw a card. This is just nice if you can get it on in the early game to say either Astrotrain or Trigger Happy, letting you just draw extra cards at the start of your turn. It's just a nice card so you can build up your hands, because this deck does go through hands pretty easily. As soon as you drop all 3, say attack drones or extra paddings, your hand's pretty much gone at that point, and there's not a whole lot of draw, so Pocket Processor isn't that bad of a choice for just trying to build up your hand size a little bit more. And we are playing 3 copies of Field Communicator. Since we are playing 2 specialists, this card seemed like a must. So whenever you put it on a specialist, you can scrap the top card of your deck, and if you want to, you can play it. Plus it gives +1 attack, so all in all, it's basically a free card, as well as giving you +1 buff. So it's kind of nice just in general. Plus you don't even have to play it on a specialist. If you really want to, you could play it on a Trigger Happy. You just won't get the effect of the getting to play the top card of your deck. And the last utility we're playing for the deck is 2 copies of Shoulder Holster. Since we do have a decent amount of weapons, being able to give Astrotrain an extra weapon slot is actually really useful. Perhaps giving him all 3 attack drones as well as a Energon X would just bring him to such high levels of base attack that your opponent's going to get overwhelmed really easily. Plus, when you put on a character, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a weapon, you can play it onto the character. So of course, since we are playing a good amount of weapons, it only makes sense for Shoulder Holster to at least be a 2 of in this deck. Now for the sideboard, I thought a little bit about this, and this is just a suggestion, of course, as all sideboards are, but one potential character for a sideboard is Raider Ion Storm. He's a plain range. He's 7/14/3 for the same amount of stars that Astrotrain is. This is mainly going to be switched in if you need more consistent attack and your opponent has a ton of upgrade removals. Then you can counter it with your own upgrade removal, because whenever he attacks in bot mode, return one of the defender's upgrades to its owner's hand, say like a reinforced plating, even an extra padding. Since a lot of good decks in the format right now revolve around certain upgrades being placed on the characters, Ion Storm seemed like a pretty good choice for a sideboard. Also considering he does have the 3 defense in his alt mode if you really need that, as opposed to being able to bounce upgrades. But bouncing upgrades back to their opponent's hand is really nice, because it kind of forces them to make a choice. Either play a different upgrade, or they played last turn, basically ruining the upgrade that they're going to play for this turn, because now their hand is clogged with something they should have already had down. It's just a very nice card in general. Plus he's a common, which is it's really strong for a common card, and I feel like he's a little underrated. Plus, since he is a plain range and Trigger Happy is also a plain range, we have some cards in the sideboard to try and abuse that. For example, we have something like Crash Landing, which we are playing 3 copies of. This says you can only put it on planes, and when the upgraded character is KO'd during your opponent's turn, they take damage equal to the character's base attack. So for example, they'll take 7, and you can only do it to tap character, unfortunately. But let's say they attacked Ion Storm and they knocked him out, you're immediately doing at least 7 damage back to that character or to another tapped character that they have, which is extremely strong. That's not something you can just get out of a regular battle card, which makes it very strong. Plus, I mean, even 3 attack from Trigger Happy's alt mode is nothing to scoff at, nothing at all. But it's just a nice card in general. It's a blank pip though, so you have to be pretty careful if you want to put all 3 in. then you have to watch out for that. And since at that point we also have 2 ranged in the deck, we're playing 3 copies of Marksmanship, which says if you do have a ranged character, you can do 2 damage to an enemy in bot mode. This is a staple card right now. I think it's going for at least $14 or $15 on TCG Player, so it's doing really well. It's a staple in any blue deck that has at least 2 ranged characters. So it's a very strong card. So of course we're gonna side in all 3 of those for when we take out Astrotrain. Other options for sideboard cards is, say, another Bigger They Are for your smaller characters to do more damage in the early game if you really need to and you know what you're going up against. There's a Vaporize to help get rid of more opponents' upgrades, as well as 2 copies of Stable Cover, so you can try and eliminate some of the pierce that your opponent's doing to get through your blue walls. So, but yeah, that's the sideboard. I'm actually really enjoying this deck. Astrotrain's such a fun character, and Ion Storm's a fun addition as well for whenever you really need to bounce upgrades, say on a Galaxy Prime, because they're doing too much damage with their matrixes. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to smash like and subscribe. And as always, have a phenomenal day. Peace.